pressure's on the Democrats right now to try to relax and try to get to the finish line, it seems.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
You know, people will tell you, especially in the psychology field, that if you put pressure on yourself when you're anxious, you get more anxious. And Hillary Clinton looks like she's getting more and more anxious on the road here. If the cake is baked, as so many experts think, it's not actually coming out that way, as she's begging the FBI to release material that they're not going to release. We'll have a thought on that from yet another brilliant mind from Brown in political science. And also we'll have a conversation about you getting out to vote, hopefully informed. So stay tuned. Welcome in. Nice to have you aboard. Let's hustle to the rundown because there's a whole bunch of things that we got to get to today. Yeah, the District 15 dynamic is getting messier and messier. Here's the headline. And again, we're talking about the Speaker of the House, and that's why we're spending so much attention to one single little district out of 75, of course, in the state of Rhode Island. State GOP files complaint against Maddy Yellow, and here's what Channel 12 reported yesterday.
Rhode Island GOP Chairman Brandon Bell walking into the Board of Elections in Providence to file an official complaint against former state rep candidate Shauna Lawton and House Speaker Nicholas Maddy Yellow over this mailer Lawton sent to Cranston voters endorsing Democrat Maddy Yellow. She ran for his seat in the primary as a Republican but lost against Stephen Frias. The 77-page complaint claims there was consultation between the Maddy Yellow campaign and Ms. Lawton about her endorsement and her announcement of that endorsement through a mailer.
If she spent $2,150, it's illegal to contribute in coordination with another campaign to a candidate over $1,000 in a calendar year.
The complaint also cites a Google Hangout chat that was obtained by Eyewitness News between Lawton and some of her supporters of Vaccine Choice, where she says she met with a Maddy Yellow aide before endorsing him. And, quote, "I have been promised we will get further with our issues." Maddy Yellow responded this afternoon, saying, "I have never met Ms. Lawton, nor have I made any promises to her in return for her support of my candidacy. I have stated that her interest in the HPV vaccine is an issue for the Department of Health, not the legislature. I have called on Ms. Lawton to disclose the funding source of her recent mailer. Said simply, today's filing by the Republican Party is meritless."
You know, generally in these situations, especially so close to Election Day, it's the actual filing that does the damage and makes the news. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to review the filing yet. We will for the ensuing days to come here, but 77 pages? This story is not good enough for 77 pages in a complaint. I can promise you that. The truth is that Ms. Lawton, as personified there, probably just was acting out with her HPV vaccine crowd. You know, she ran for office, didn't say much about the vaccine issue, got 120 stinking lousy votes in the primary, and then came back to her chat room. I'm telling you, internet behavior changes the way people behave. It's not good. You know, I'm so important, quid pro quo, you know, we'll get something for this. You know, I'm paraphrasing. And so she put herself into a jam. But she took Maddy Yellow down with her because the Maddy Yellow camp wasn't smart enough to distance themselves from that mailer, which is what they should have done. And they are a fractured crowd right now. So this will be interesting. This could very well be a tightened race, and unlike the presidential polls where we get, you know, one every 10 minutes, it's pretty hard to understand what the actual pulse of a district race is. But my guess is it's tightening. Mr. Frias, the Republican, will be here tomorrow night on Dan Yorke State of Mind, and the Speaker himself will be here on Thursday. There's Mr. Frias. All right, let's come to the city of Providence. This cracked me up. Real surplus. Here's the headline. Oh, front page. Nothing like a front page headline that says, hey, we got $9.5 million in the bank. Jorge Elorza, the mayor, was, you know, cautiously excited about it.
We still have real significant financial challenges over the long term, and so I want to make sure that that is clear. But what's important today is that we've turned the corner, and for the first time in a very long time, we have good financial news to report for the city of Providence.
Well, it's easy to run a $9.5 million surplus when you don't pay the firefighters. Nope. Nope. And it's easy when you don't have police and fire academies running. Oh. This is like saying, honey, I didn't pay the tuition for the kids this month, so we got some money to go on vacation. Okay, Jorge, in your world, you're doing great. By the way, how's that billion-dollar deficit on the pension and benefits working for you? Okay. Okay, let's move along. We made it! We made WikiLeaks! Da-da-da! I mean, it's not, right? Yeah! Sheldon Whitehouse. He sends emails too. Here's the headline. The junior senator wanted to link Sanders with Karl Rove because, as is the case with my friend the senator, he usually has a movie in his head.
When the Republican attack machine goes to work on somebody, they can do a lot of damage. And Bernie is completely untested against that machinery. Maybe he shines through it all, maybe he comes through glorious and unhurt, but maybe they tear him to pieces.
Well, he wrote all about that. Check your local WikiLeaks listing for more details on that. It's too much. Look, Bernie Sanders whipped Hillary Clinton in Rhode Island, right? So they were worried about that in advance. And let's not, I mean, I'm obviously kidding with you. I'm not celebrating WikiLeaks. This is Russian espionage of the DNC and the HRC campaign through mostly John Podesta, the chair of the HRC campaign's email. But it's nice to know they checked in with Sheldon, especially when it comes to Rhode Island issues. See, they were trying to make some headway here and grab some juice in the primary. They realized that Bernie was leading, and they thought that they could go to Gina Raimondo, you've heard of her, our governor, and see if she could work the NEA, the National Education Association, and bring them from Bernie to Hillary. Well, they got some intel through all this email, and you follow the trail, that Gina Raimondo doesn't get along with the NEA very well. Okay, next stop. David Cicilline, the congressman, who, according to the emails, was reportedly begging, their words, to get involved. David doesn't have much to do other than raise money all day long. It's boring being a congressman. All right, New Englander of the Year, speaking of, she is. I had a friend of mine stop me today and say, how could she be the New Englander of the Year? It's kind of like, you know, I should have said this because it just came to me. You like Elf, the movie? You know when he comes down into the city and he sees world's best coffee, and he walks in and says, "Congratulations, you did it! The world's best coffee." That's what this is. This is the New England Council, age-old business organization that's named Gina Raimondo the New Englander of the Year. They have this big dinner and they got to name somebody. Kevin doesn't want it.
You know I know.
But she's got a 30% popularity rating. How is that possible, Dan? Because they've got a dinner and someone has to have it. It's not the Emmys. All right. What's going on in the political race across the board? Washington, 1 week left, thank God. Headline here. You caught me looking at the clock, sorry. Comey faces a firestorm of criticism over the renewed Clinton email probe. Yes, let us get the latest from CBS, or at least the latest that we have.
Hillary Clinton says the FBI won't find anything wrong in a batch of newly discovered emails.
If they want to look at some more emails of one of my staffers, by all means, go ahead, look at them.
The Bureau is poring over thousands of emails it discovered on a laptop Clinton's aide, Huma Abedin, shared with her estranged husband, Anthony Weiner.
Do you think right now that Hillary Clinton is happy with the services of Huma? I don't think so.
The Clinton campaign accuses James Comey of having a double standard for its revelation into Clinton's emails while refusing to confirm the Bureau is investigating potential links between Donald Trump's campaign personnel and Russia.
He won't say what he's doing with Donald Trump, but what we're hearing from anonymous leaks is that they're investigating Donald Trump's ex-campaign manager over his connections to the Russians.
The New York Times reports the FBI did look into possible Trump ties to Russia and found no conclusive or direct link.
Donald Trump is focusing on his other favorite topic today, Obamacare. Trump's trying to tie Clinton to the president's health care plan, which announced premiums are going up an average of 25% this year.
Hillary Clinton wants to double down on Obamacare, making it even more expensive.
Tuesday, Clinton will try to shift the attention back to Trump when she campaigns with Alicia Machado, the beauty pageant winner Trump once criticized because she gained weight.
Really? You're going to bring Miss Universe candidate? Wow, huh? What do you think,
Pretty
Professor?
low.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like going back into the playbook and running the play that you gained 2 yards on, you know, in the first quarter here in the fourth quarter. I'm not so sure.
There's so much to choose from anyway.
Right? What do you think? Welcome. The professor is working on a Get Out the Vote project, but it's not the normal one. It's actually well researched, and it's grounded, and it's organic. And she and I thought we were going to have a battle on our radio show yesterday when we originated from Brown, because I'm a quality versus quantity guy when it comes to getting the vote out. But the more I listened, the more I said, boy, that's an interesting project. So the professor will talk about that a little bit later on in the program. But gut check, what do you think about where we are a week away?
It's very nerve-wracking. It's white knuckles. I'm not going to feel good until it's all over.
So does that mean you're a Clinton supporter?
I am.
Yeah, okay. It was so funny yesterday. I couldn't find a Trump supporter anywhere within a square block of our broadcast yesterday.
There's millions of them.
Yes.
They're just not necessarily right around here. But there's plenty in Rhode Island. I mean, there's a good argument for Trump, and I think, you know, it's out there. Whether he's a good candidate or not, there's a good argument. But there's a more important one for Hillary.
Meaning?
Security, if nothing else, just security. I'm a political scientist, I'm a security expert, and Trump's either he doesn't understand or he's denying the basic logic of the nuclear age. He's talking really irresponsibly about the possibility, and you should tell, you have a good story on this.
Yeah, well, the guy I was playing golf with this weekend says to me, this is a decision between corrupt and crazy. And I'll take corrupt over crazy anytime, because he's going to look at that machine and say, which button is this? I mean, obviously it's metaphorical, but it's...
Yeah, but it's not enough far off. I mean, it should be just a joke, except he's talking about maybe using nuclear weapons. Why not? We have these weapons. And he's talking about nuclear proliferation like it's a good thing. And this is, we have so many firsts in this election. There's just a long list, but this is the first time we have somebody who's maybe bringing us to a much more... I mean, big experts have said how dangerous the situation is if he really did control. I mean, what happens if he has the football? You know, they call it the football. And if he says to use it, how many people can say no to him? There's nobody above him.
Relax. We'll come back and talk some more. Stay with us.
Because the Attorney General, you know, seemed compromised by this meeting she had with Bill Clinton on an airplane several months ago. And this is the reason that Comey went out and disclosed all of this information about the investigation, which is very unusual. The reason he did that is because he wanted everybody to understand that this was a law enforcement decision, that they had looked at the evidence, that they had made a decision that no reasonable prosecutor would bring a case, and that this was not influenced by political considerations or by the Attorney General or any of those other matters. But once he opened that door, he got on a slippery slope, which has led to today, because now that he's disclosed so much about the investigation, he felt like he had to go back and correct the record, because he said they closed it, and now they're looking for a search warrant for another computer. So he felt like he had to correct it, and that really was the door he opened.
Timothy Edgar last night from Brown University, and of course Professor Hart, Brown University. We go to Brown University because there's a lot of smart minds there, not necessarily politically biased minds, although you're allowed to have a vote.
Good.
But you have to teach objectively.
Oh yeah, but we're not in the classroom.
Right. But I remind everybody that you know, listen, PC and Joe Camerano and that crowd over there, and URI and Professor Lawless and those folks that we bring over here on a regular basis. The circuit is actually pretty chock full with pretty smart people about this kind of thing. But Brown is really a fertile place for folks who have had real hands-on experience, and Tim is one of them. Your experience and then your thought on this dilemma that we have here a week in advance with the FBI probe. What are you thinking?
Well, I think Comey was in a rough spot because with all these calls from the Trump campaign that the election is rigged, what if this had come out afterwards, that there were emails and they needed to be pursued?
Do you think he was actually thinking about that, or do you think he was able to operate in more of a clinical, legal, law enforcement vacuum?
Well, those things converge. So, you know, it comes out that he's got to make the announcement. I mean, I'm right with the Hillary campaign that I wish that it had been more substantive. It's one thing to say, yeah, we're going to look into it, but well, what have you got? What are you looking at? So, and especially, of course, that close to the election. I mean, it's a tough thing to emerge there. And they've just looked at her so much. They've looked at how many thousands of emails, and now Trump is portraying it like this is it, the mother lode, they've got all the smoking guns. It's just, that's implausible from already what has been looked at.
Well, I wonder whether the reaction to Trump's reaction is how it's been. I mean, the notion that this guy can't take a presidential disposition on this and say, wow, provocative conversation to the FBI and tough decision they had to make. Let's see how it pans out and take a deep breath and get back to arguing the issues. I mean, he's not, I mean, we're drooling and just dreaming for that kind of disposition on the part of a candidate. Doesn't have that in him. He's Huma's in trouble. You know, her husband's now my best friend. I mean, the juvenile nature of the reaction to this is alarming to me. I'm sure alarming to you. I don't know whether people actually recognize, based on his consistent behavior on this level, how awful it really is.
It's unprecedented. It's astounding. It's very disturbing. But really, you had me with him at he won't even accept the outcome of the election. I mean, what else do you need to know in terms of not presidential?
Well, the FBI was part of the rigged, you know, fixes in conspiracy until such time as they came up with this letter, and all of a sudden now, you know, they're making a comeback. The polls are awful, except ABC's got them up 1 now, and Fox has them up 1, and those polls aren't so bad. And
it's very disturbing.
It is. There's no doubt. But so is Hillary Clinton in terms of her recklessness and her server behavior. And boy, I'll tell you, she cooked her own goose here.
Well, it's something I don't know why the Hillary campaign hasn't made more use of is that she is not the only one to use a private server. And Colin Powell, who's revered in many ways, is somebody else who did the same thing. So there may be something that is exaggerated about this so that there's a way to point a finger at her.
I'm not sure that the two match up in their exact use of the server, but if we could get into all that minutia, it certainly was. There's more common ground than uncommon ground between them. I'll give you that much. At the end of the day, when you say nail biter and you're hoping to get to Monday, what recommendation would you have to the Clinton campaign about how to market this? Because beating up on Comey and begging for the information that probably isn't coming, I don't think there's any way to run the railroad.
She needed to respond that way, though, because if
so how long do you run that race?
I think she needs to go back. Well, I'm not the campaign specialist by any means, but I think the fact that she's got a good Democratic organization, they have a ground game, it's got to be about get out the vote. It's the last few days, and you go to the fundamentals. Ordinarily, we would expect the fundamentals to work, but this is not a normal election.
Speaking of get out the vote, the professor's been working on that kind of a project. You're going to find out about it when we come back. Stay with us. All right, speaking of getting out the vote, Professor, you've been working on this project. We have a website, right, or something like that, that you can take a look at? Yes, growingvoters.org. Oh, you're just the typical liberal Democrat looking to just get every knucklehead out there to vote, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's actually a long-range strategy because I start with primary school kids, so they're not voting this time.
You're brainwashing them.
That's right. Well, I mean, the idea of getting them motivated all along in school. I mean, there's election trading cards that you can make when you're in primary school. Second graders can interview somebody in the family. You know, get them going early. Middle school, there's a bunch of activities. Just even making a why vote pamphlet, and then take that pamphlet out to a football game or a shopping mall and say, are you going to vote in November? Can I give you my class pamphlet?
Are you assessing or asserting as a foundational motivational thought for this project that Americans have lost their acumen and interest in voting?
Well, voter turnout, of course, is very low in the U.S. in an absolute comparative sense, but also our own turnout has declined. And people's engagement and interest has fallen away. Plus, we rate poorly on social studies knowledge, civics knowledge. So all that stuff can be done and should, in my view, should be done in schools. You can get the students doing all kinds. You know, one of my favorite things you would appreciate is a spin room. It's a simulated spin room. And so there's a Democratic team and a Republican team, and they've got to get the spin organized for after the debate, get the governor, get the senator, and line them up with what they're going to say, irrespective of what happened in the debate.
Are the young people of today, I'm talking about the kids up through the adolescents, teenagers, the millennial crowd as it's known, are they lesser aware, as aware, more aware than previous generations?
Well, it's very hard to generalize. I mean, I've started this project in 2004. It's been used in every state. It's downloaded by teachers in all the states. So I think it varies a lot by state. It depends on the election. But in general, as I say, in tests, content tests, students are scoring lower than they used to be.
Because?
Well, it could be that it's not taught as much in school because there's been a change in standards and different incentives in schools to really buckle down on what are considered fundamentals, like math and English. But I think that citizenship should be considered a fundamental. And my view of this, and that's why I created the project, is you don't have to do these election activities in social studies. You can do them in math class. You can do them in science and English.
Can you teach civic and political engagement without bias?
Oh yeah, I was just at a school in Western Massachusetts, and a lot of the teachers and the students were really considering Trump as a viable candidate. And so,
did you express that you were Hillary supporter when you began?
No, I don't do that in the classroom. No, I mean this is a different thing. I'm trying to lend my expertise to an issue and problem. But I've taught Middle East studies for years, and the best thing I can say is to be able to make very solid arguments on both sides and all sides, without the students knowing what your own personal views are.
Do you agree with me that you'd rather have quality versus quantity? I'm with you with the quantity as long as there's quality in the quantity. But if there's no quality, I don't want the quantity.
Well, I mean, where do you want quantity and not quality?
Nowhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, there may be a food group I subscribe to, but not when it comes to something like this.
Well, you know, I think, you know, in a future show, I'd like to have you come back and we'll just talk about this and the dynamics of it and what you're learning. But give me the executive summary in the minute or so that we have here on what this campaign has taught you about our current status.
The campaign itself, the number of unprecedented things about it that we used to, what had become conventional wisdom, like the media buys that are so low, and that the support of a party and the party structure. I mean, there's some. As a political scientist, I mean, I can just see the studies that are going to come out of this. Even media time. Has Clinton gotten more media time, or Trump? Criticism, the content analysis that's going to come out of this.
And so when you intersect that with your campaign to get people more engaged in the voting process, what happens?
Hopefully more informed, knowledgeable voters. Because you want people to really look into the issues. Unfortunately, this campaign hasn't done very much of that. It's been a lot more of a food fight.
Well, we've got a Facebook, social media, 15 minutes of fame, apprentice, bulletin board, bumper sticker attention span right now, right?
One only can hope that this was an unprecedented, and we do not repeat this the next time.
All right, we'll have you back. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. All righty, final word when we come back. Only a week left. Again, reminder, coming back home tomorrow night, Steve Fry is Republican candidate in District 15, where the Speaker is defending his seat, and the Speaker himself, Nick Maddy Yellow, coming up on the Thursday program. So join us for that. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio from 3 to 6 on WPRO. We thank you for watching. Have a great night. Go Cubbies. We won a Game 7.